Hello, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity, where I am here to just talk about the short treks, which I didn't cover last year, but I'm covering this year. But I'm doing the most minimal effort, just doing a live stream and just rambling off some quick thoughts on the top of my head. And so this time I want to talk about the Trouble with Edward, which just dropped today from my perspective. The short track that had to do with Tribbles, as the title would suggest. And of course, I'll start with spoilers for the short track if you haven't seen it. So you shouldn't watch it unless you don't mind being spoiled. Anyway, so sorry, my cat's playing with a plastic bag. Sorry if you can hear that. But anyway, so this is probably the one I was looking most forward to. Like the one last week with Spock and number one and stuck in the turbo lift was the one I was looking forward to the least. Like because as I said, I'm not a fan of stuck in an elevator stories. There's a bit of a cliche, and it did turn out pretty much as I expected. This one, however, I was really looking forward to because it looked funny from the trailer, and it had H. John Benjamin in it, who is an actor a comedian I quite recognize, mainly from voicing some cartoons like Archer and Bob's Burger. Although I never really watched Bob's Burger, so I really knew him from Archer, and I've seen him some other things. And he's a really funny comedian. And he's a really good actor. He has really good comedic timing. From what I saw of the brief little snippet of what we got there, I thought it looked like he was going to be quite funny in this one as well. But here's the thing. It turned out to be quite disappointed in this one, and I guess it's more likely to happen when my expectations are high. Because here's the thing about Tribbles. I'm never a huge fan of the Tribbles. Like, I think Trouble with Tribbles is a really overrated episode. I was never that crazy about it myself, and Trials and Tribulation is outrageously overrated. It doesn't even deserve to be held in the same conversation when you're talking about the best episodes of Deep Space Nine, but somehow it's always on the top of a lot of lists, which it totally doesn't deserve to be. It's a good episode, nothing against it, but it's not the best of Deep Space Nine. Anyway, but I thought the Tribbles were fine, The thing I liked most about Tribbles was that I liked the commentary behind it, that because in the original The Trouble with Tribbles episode, they mentioned that the Tribbles lived on a planet where they had tons of predators, and it was their natural defense to these predators was to breed really fast. So unlike other species that are prey, like Saru or whatever, they have really heightened senses. They can sense prey, they can run fast, or they could hide, camouflage themselves, and stuff like that. But the Tribbles' defense was just they could breed a lot, and so their population was always kept in check because they're easy prey. They just sit there and go coo coo, but since they breed so much, it keeps them from being wiped out. That's their defense. So as a result of removing them from this natural environment, is that where they no longer have all the predators that keep them in check is when they explode and become an ecological menace. And this, I thought, was a very good analogy because there's a lot of real life examples of animals that are moved to different places. Like I lived in New Zealand for a while, and they had a lot of menaces like pests that were brought over by the English. And it's funny, some were brought over specifically to get rid of the other pests, and then they became pests themselves and started. So when you take something out of its own natural environment and introduce it to a new environment, it can have devastating effects. So I thought that's probably the thing I liked about the Tribbles the most. So if you've seen this short trek, I think you know where I'm going with this. Because this short trek defies that. It erases that. It changes canon. It changes history, and it makes it so. No, that's not the case. It's not a tale about if you take something from its natural environment and become an ecological menace, because naturally, it has a lot of predators that keep it in check, and it produces a lot in order to. Keep in the balance with how easy prey it is. No, no, no. According to this short trek, it was some dude named Edward who genetically engineered them to be that way by splicing his own DNA with the tribbles, and that's why they breed a lot. I know this is done for comedic purposes, and I will admit there's part of the short trek I did find funny, but I can't understate how much that irritated me. Like, I just recently, for those who are supporting me on Patreon, I just recently on my Patreon page for my Patreon supporters, I covered the animated series episode More Tribbles, More Tribbles, which I just covered like a couple weeks ago, and that was my main problem with that episode, is that they invented the Klingons genetically engineered a tribble predator in order to keep the tribbles in check. But you don't have to genetically engineer a predator. There are tons. That's the whole point. As I said, that's the whole point of the tribbles, is that they have tons of predators that keep their population in check. All they had to do is to go to their home and get one of them. So now this bullshit is saying that they never, like when Edward first introduces them, he's saying, they don't breed very much. Then it defies everything. Now, I'm not a canon hawk. If you know me, there's a lot of people complained about a lot of things in Discovery and other things that didn't bother me as much, because especially technology, because technology, who cares? Obviously, we can't have a TV show in 2019 looking like it's from the 1960s. I mean, that's common sense to me, so I don't care about any, there's no holograms or whatever, any of that bullshit doesn't bother me. But something like this does bother me, because it's the whole point of Tribbles, and they're sort of rewriting. So now that's the canon, is now that the Tribbles weren't don't breed a lot. They only breed a lot because they're genetically engineered to do so. And that, at the end of this short trek, they even said, the Admiral puts it in the way, you unleash a genetically modified species. So now the Tribbles that are a menace are just that, a menace because they're genetically modified. No! That defies the whole purpose. It's about, if you take something away from its natural ecosystem, it becomes the ecological damage. That's an important message I have. God damn it, it pisses me off that they did this. So I could not get over this. The whole entire episode, I was frustrated with this. Now you might say, Mark, it's just a comedy, but this is canon now. This is the official Star Trek word, and you know, if they ever mention Tribbles in Star Trek again, they're gonna stick to this canon now, which pisses me off. But anyway, as for the comedy, I did not think it was that funny, if I'm being perfectly honest. It seemed to me, especially some of the music in it, felt like callbacks to the original series comedies, like da-da-da-da-da-da. And to be honest, I never really cared for original series comedy. Like, I did a top 10 funniest episodes of Star Trek, and there were no original series episodes in my top 10. People were like, what about the Trouble with Tribbles? What about Piece of the Action? I don't really find that 60s humor funny. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a bit too modern. Hello, Gabriel McKnight. How you doing? But anyway, I never found that kind of humor funny, and it seemed like to me they were trying to stick to that kind of humor, and a lot of the humor I felt was a bit telegraphed in this short trek. Now, that's not to say I didn't think it was funny at all. Like, there were some moments, like as I said, I like the actor of H. John Benjamin, and I did think he gave a good performance. I just don't think like he did his best to elevate the humor, but I just don't think the script was on to par. And the actress, the main actress who played the captain, I just saw her in this Amazon show I watched called Undone, which I thought was amazing. Apparently, she was in Alita Battle Angel as well, but I hadn't seen that movie, so she was good. I liked her as well, and some of the chemistry these two actors had in the room, like that one scene, like the. To me, it's like the acting was good, but the dialogue was bad. Like the whole thing about, oh, this conversation's over. Oh, it's not over. Yes, it is over. Oh no, it's not over. Like that was good. I like the timing, the comedic timing the actors had. It's just that dialogue was just too plain. That's just like, yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. It seems I was expecting more. I'm like, because these actors are doing such a good job, I'm like, please give me more. Don't just sit there and go like, conversation's over. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. But that's all they did with it. But oh, Gabriel McKnight says Trouble with Tribbles is way overrated. Thank you. Totally agree. But also says the original series is my favorite. Yeah, well, that's, I disagree with you. That original series is actually one of my least favorite. I much prefer the next gen 90s era of tracks, shall we say. But, to each their own. If you prefer the original series, it's all good. But anyway, yeah, so in a moment where, Edward was like, oh, I guess I did kind of find it kind of funny when he was like, being really obtuse to the fact that they were saying are Tribbles sentient or the moral implications. But that humor kind of interfered with the logistic, because if this is what after watching the short trek, I'm a bit worried about Lower Decks, because I was really excited for Lower Decks because I want to see a comedy done in the same vein of Rick and Morty taking place in the Star Trek universe. It sounds amazing to me, but hopefully the humor will be better than this, because to me the humor wasn't really, and plus it showed the difficult of how, because they say with Lower Decks that it's going to be canon. It's not going to be like a parody of Star Trek. It's going to keep within it's supposed to fit in the canon, but still be comedy at the same time. And I think that's possible. But I don't think they quite pulled that off here. So I do hope that Lower Decks does a better job than this short did. Because the thing with Edward being like obtuse to whether or not the species was sentient and the moral implications of using a sentient species for food, that's funny. It was a good comedy, but it's not believable as a real star. Like, I don't believe someone who could be that idiotic, who could make it into Starfleet, become a scientist on a Starfleet ship, and not be so oblivious. Oh, what the hell is happening? I don't know what happened. I lost my internet connection or whatnot. But anyway, hopefully you guys can see me again. I think I just bleeped out. But anyway, so where was? Yes, so it wasn't quite believable to me that he could be that obtuse and idiotic, but it was funny. But I don't know. But then some of the other humor throughout the rest of the thing, with like the Tribbles like popping out of nowhere, like it seems like that's the one trick pony with these Tribble episodes. It's like, oh, it's funny because there's lots of Tribbles everywhere, and it's like that's the old joke. It's nothing new. We've seen that before. But I will grant you, it's actually not as bad as that animated series episode I mentioned before from the 70s animated show, More Tribbles, where they just replayed the thing where all the Tribbles fell on Kirk, and they were like, da, 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 oh no, it happened again. Like, I don't care that there's a cartoon. That's still stupid. So this wasn't quite as bad as it, but like the whole thing where like the admirals are grilling the captain, I can't remember her name, and saying, you allowed this to happen. You were captain for 2 weeks, and you created this, unleashed this genetically engineered, and they destroyed a planet that had to be evacuated, and you possibly you raise tensions between the Klingons, and all she had to say was, "Oh, that guy was an idiot." Okay, it was kind of funny, I will admit, but still, it's not really something I sort of buy. So this is what I'm saying. It makes it hard for me to. It makes me worried about Lower Deck's ability to blend the comedy, but still feel like an actual Star Trek show. So I don't know. I feel like there were changes like where this episode, this short trek could have been better. Has, like, for example, I talked about that scene where they're saying, "Oh, the conversation's over" or whatever. Like that could have been a really funny scene. And there's other, like, I don't like. And I think they should have made Edward a bit smarter. They could still play him off as kind of a moron, kind of like the way they do with Rom, because Rom is a moron, but he's a genius at the same time. And I feel like Rom is a good example of them walking that line. Whereas with Edward, he was way too much on the idiot side, where I don't buy him as a scientist. Like, they could have done his character better. And overall, I think this is like another example. This short trek is another example. It's similar to the one, like the first one they ever did with Tilly and the Princess, whatever her name was, where it's this story is too much for a short trek. It should be a full episode. This should be at least a 30-minute episode, if not like a whole full hour. I think there's too much, and that's part of the reason why it doesn't work, is because there's too much story for it to fit in this short format, in my opinion. Anyway, my rating for The Trouble with Edward out of 10 is a 5. Average. I was going to give it a 4, but I watched this the second time. I actually found it funnier the second time. I think it's because I was less annoyed. The first time I saw it, I was just so annoyed over the change in the Tribbles, how they're trying to say he's genetically engineered by this dude named Edward. Like, that still pisses me off. But I got to admit, some of the humor did work, but I just think it could have been better. I think it could have been way better, and I do hope Lower Decks is much better than this, honestly. And that little, if you haven't seen it, there's a post-credit scene, because some people turn off the episode as soon as the credit rolls. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch the post-credit scene before you watch this next part of the video. But it's kind of dumb. It was like, I don't get it, because it was like a 90s style commercial. Like they showed it like it was, you're watching it from a VHS. But this is taking place in the 23rd century. So why is there a 90s VHS style commercial? It's like a commercial for cereal, done in the vein of like a 90s commercial. But it doesn't make sense that the 23rd century would have that. And I think they even had like the VHS like saying play at the start of it. Like, huh? I don't get it. I guess they wanted to do the same style and be like, oh, it was a cheesy style where they had the animated Tribbles going, oh, the Tribbles, right? Like, okay, that was kind of funny, but it was just too, I don't know, trying too hard, I think, is the best way to say it. I didn't think it was the funniest thing ever. Anyway, no one seems to be watching this, so that's all I have to say about this short trek. So I think the next one comes out in about a month, so I'll be back in a month to cover that. In the meantime, you can check out my channel as I covering Mr. Robot at the moment, airing every Sunday. Also doing lots of other Star Trek videos. Just watched season 4 of Enterprise, so I'll have that review coming out in a few weeks as well. And also covering The Lost, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all that. And thanks a lot for watching.